Hello! Welcome to our video today on working with our nervous systems. This video is going to take you through our brains and our nervous systems, different things that kind of happen when things happen in our life within our bodies, and what to do about it, and how to kind of help ourselves go back to a feeling of safety and grounded. I'm Emily Locke. I'm a social worker here at CHEO, and I'm joined by my colleague,
Dr. Marjorie Robb. I'm a psychiatrist here at CHEO.
And we're going to take turns walking you through this presentation. To give us kind of a sense of where we're going together today, we're going to talk about our nervous systems and our brains in a little bit more detail and the different states that they can flow between. Then we'll get into some strategies that can really help ground us and settle us. We'll also talk about some of the fundamental building blocks to wellness and staying well, like sleep and nutrition. And we'll round out the presentation by talking a bit about you and how you can stay well as you support, kids, youth, other adults in your lives that you care about.
So let's start by looking at our nervous system. You might never have thought of your nervous system as a ladder, but really you can kind of make a picture of our ways of responding to things with a ladder picture like this. Our brains are wired with ways of responding to different kinds of situations. And we call that the autonomic nervous system, but you can kind of think of it as the automatic nervous system because we'll respond automatically. We don't have to think, oh, I'm going to get angry and start to fight with somebody now. It just kind of happens on automatic. So kind of right at the top of the ladder is that place where things are safe and we feel good and happy and we're able to connect with other people. That's a good spot. But then when challenges or stressful situations come along, our brain and our body get ready to respond to protect us. So we get ready to run away or to fight back. We get sort of geared up for action. And if that doesn't work or can't work in that situation, it's possible that we might just kind of shut down and kind of collapse. Sometimes people even physically faint. So let's look at these different reactions in some more detail. So think of our safe and social state. We're at our best. We feel our best. When we're safe, we feel connected to other people. And when we're in that state, we're able to get stuff done. Our energy is good. We're able to sort of be curious about things instead of reactive. We're able to connect to people really well and sort of explore and grow and play. And when you see your kids in this state, when they're feeling good and secure and just doing their thing. So think about when or in what kind of situations you feel that way yourself. I'm going to take you on a mini imaginative journey. Imagine you're in that pleasant, happy, calm state, and you decide to go for a nice walk in the woods. And you have this beautiful path through the forest, and you're breathing in the lovely air and smelling the trees and appreciating the light coming through the leaves. And suddenly, you see a bear on the path. Then what happens? Our nervous system goes into respond mode. Brain's job, keep us safe from the bear. And so our bodies get tense. We get ready to run away or climb a tree, or if worse comes to worse, try and kick the bear in the nose. But we really hope it doesn't come to that. And when the bear turns and wanders back into the woods, then gradually our bodies relax back. It doesn't happen in the first 10 seconds, right? So that's fine for bears, but think of our everyday lives. Our lives are full of stresses. It's just normal, and a lot of them are a whole lot more complex than bears are. We have money stress, we have relationship stress, we have work stress, we have school stress, and our brains are actually not all that good at telling the difference between those kinds of stress and something like a growling bear. So with those kind of stresses too, our bodies gear up to try and protect us. So we get anxious and tense and edgy. And we might try and run away by avoiding things or, distracting yourself with other stuff. And it can also turn on our kind of fight reaction. Like we might just feel angry a lot and get angry, probably at somebody who doesn't have anything to do with the actual stress. We might do risky behaviors. Some people even feel so bad they hurt themselves to try and get away from those stressful feelings. On the other hand, sometimes we get into situations where we can't run away, we can't fight back effectively at least, and we just feel like there's nothing we can do. And then our brain's reaction might be to freeze, we call it, to shut down. If we go back to the bear in the forest and the animal world level, it could be like a little animal playing dead in hopes that the bear won't eat it. But in our everyday lives, it might work just by shutting down, being depressed. With kids, you might see withdrawing from friends or sort of not being interested in activities, wanting to just stay in their bedroom, even wanting to stay in bed all day. And if a person feels really hopeless, they might even think of extreme things like self-harm or thinking that, if I were dead, it would be a way out of this because it's so hopeless. So our job, of course, is to help ourselves and our kids and anyone remember that situations come and go. This isn't permanent. We'll get through it. And then as caregivers, we work to stay connected emotionally and help the person feel safe and not alone. So that's a little bit of an overview. If you'd like to see a really good little video about understanding how the nervous system works, this is it. If you'd like to take a moment, click that button. We'll be here when you're done. So let's take a minute and just talk about trauma and stress. These are words we use a lot, we hear a lot. What are they? What's the difference between them? So trauma isn't actually a thing that happens, although that's how we think of it. Trauma is the body's response to an event that just overwhelms your nervous system's ability to respond. So that can be obviously a big event like an assault or a car accident or a house fire or some big bad thing that happens. But it can also be smaller things that happen over and over again. Constant criticism from somebody in your family, bullying at school that just keeps on going and nobody ever helps with it. And that can just keep the body sort of stuck in this fight or flight kind of situation with the brain cranking out stress chemicals for a long time. Not everything is a traumatic event. It depends on how the body reacts in the long term. Anything that's big, like I mentioned, is going to be scary and stressful at the time. But if you can deal with the situation and get through it and come out okay the other side, your body doesn't keep that stress response stuck inside. And you can kind of go on with your life. So what's the difference between that and stress? Stress is part of life. Stress happens unless you spend your whole life living in a cave with somebody bringing you room service so that you don't have to worry about eating all the time. But stress is stuff that we deal with. We might go into fight or flight, but we deal with it and we move on. It doesn't stay parked in our nervous systems. So what are some of the things that make an event traumatic, help it to get stuck in the brain? One thing is the lack of somebody to connect with and help you feel safer. We call that co-regulation, but that's not necessarily going to be available all the time. A safe person to help you, to stand with you, help you feel safer and not alone. Your own capacity, or your child's capacity, to just manage their own emotions can absolutely not be up to the task. Every single person on earth has a point where their stress systems are just going to be overwhelmed. And so when that happens, the brain's main job is to survive. That response is what kicks in and it overrides everything else. And so keeping yourself safe replaces the need to connect and be engaged with other people. So, like I said before, if those things don't get fully processed, then the reactions can stay stuck in our nervous system. The result is difficulty connecting with people, being on alert. Where, if we go back to the importance of being safe and social, just as a reminder, when we feel safe and connected to the important people in our lives, we're in that state where we can grow and be healthy and play and discover and learn, and it's great. And at a physical level, our immune systems work better. We feel better, we're less likely to get sick. And fun fact, at least 50% of, whether we live long or not is determined by social connection, not genetics, not what you eat, all of that kind of stuff. I'm going to hand it over to Emily now.
Thank you. So now we'll get into some of the strategies, some things that we can do to help our nervous system connect back to the people around us, feel secure, feel safe again. So we'll just take a minute to watch the video on your screen. It's a beautiful nature scene. And just tune into yourself and see what you experience while you're watching the video. So in terms of how we integrate nature in our world, I thought of it in the CB imagine, because nature is all around us, but we don't often tap into it and use it in the way that it could be the most beneficial to us. So we really need to actively invite nature into our world to help regulate our system. So we can see it, we can put up pictures or images around us of nature, we can have plants or flowers. Another fun fact is that the brain doesn't really differentiate a whole lot between something alive and fake in terms of helping it to regulate the nervous system. So, smells aren't your thing, or you're not allowed alive things in your space, then bring in something fake and beautiful and it'll help you too. And also fractals. So those are the repeating patterns that we see in the world, like sand dunes, or when you think of a sunflower, how it goes around. Those are inherently really calming and regulating to our nervous system. Kind of grounds us and makes us feel safe. So having those in your environment can make a big difference. We can, of course, be in nature, take that nature walk and do it imagining or using our senses as much as we can, right? So really hearing, what do we notice? What are we smelling? What does it look like around us? So being really mindful and present when we're doing it can be actively very soothing. And of course we can swim in a lake or river or go and sit by and, there are lots of beaches around us, take a look at the water and just being immersed in nature. And when we can't physically get ourselves there, we can imagine it. So, Marjorie took us through before, walking through the forest and some of the smells and sights. And so immersing yourself, it's incredible what your brain can do in terms of bringing that imagination to life and then having it work for us. So even now, if I ask you to think about the sound of the ocean, what else do you notice? You might have heard some seagulls flapping by, or you might be able to smell the salt coming off the ocean as well. So it shows how our brain, is able to connect with all those senses to really bring it alive. A lot of times in the being in nature with littles, kids, they're happy, they're excited, they want to adventure and discover and check things out and they want to go with you. Sometimes it can be harder to convince youth, to kind of connect with that playful side and get back out again, especially if experiencing a bit more of that collapsed state. So things like taking a drive through nature can make a huge difference. Roll down the window, let the smell come in. We've got some beautiful roadways around us that take us through forests. So there are really kind of creative ways to connect with it depending on how old, the people are in your life that you're supporting. We'll now go through a few relaxation techniques, so things again that help ground and settle our nervous system. Breathing. Let's take a minute to talk about breathing. Breathing is miraculous. It's wonderful. We do it all the time. We always have it with us. And most of the time, we're not thinking about it. We're not aware. It's happening outside of our conscious awareness. And the amazing thing about breathing is it's something that we have organically that will help ground and settle us and kind of make us feel safe again. There are a lot of ways to use it. The key piece about breathing is to make sure your breathing is kind of longer and slower than what it was that you would normally breathe. Otherwise, it's kind of the sky's the limit about how you integrate it. So I'm going to teach a few different ideas because it kind of goes across, childhood and youth and see what people can connect to. But by no means do you have to use these. It's really whatever works for you and your family. So the first one we'll go over is deep breathing with our 5 fingers. This one is awesome because it's often taught in schools as well. So you can ask your kiddo at home, do you know what, have you done this? Have you tried this? And they might be able to teach you or show you, which will be really fun to do together. And if not, you can teach them. So I'll invite you now to hold up your hands with me. You can start either at the thumb or the pinky. And as you go up the side of your thumb or your finger, you'll breathe in. And as you go down, you breathe out. And in. And out. In. The really nice thing about that one is it's tactile. So for little kids, they're getting a physical sensation. They have something to focus on, which will help kind of, clue them into what they're doing and keep them kind of mindful and present while they're doing it. And I, joke that we usually have a hand around that we can use for it. So it's an easy thing to take on the go with you. Animal breathing, again, is really fun either for little kids or older children who still really connected and love animals and interested in them. And it's a way to engage in a more kind of playful way at first to teach breathing, which is helpful for kids who have a hard time kind of sitting still and just calmly doing the breathing. So you can find lots of examples of these on Google, or there are cards you can pick up from the library. But a couple of fun ones, I'll give an example, is the bumblebee breathing. So you go bzzz. Sometimes it's that short because it's with a little person, but you take a big breath in, bzzz, like a bee. And it gets them starting to clue into, again, that vibration, that sensation, experiencing it in their body. And then you can move from these higher energy animals into slower and more relaxed animals. Like if we all just be a calm sloth. And if we breathe like one, and bring some of that relaxation through the slower animals, or a big comfy bear getting ready for hibernation. And just do your hibernation breathing. So there are a lot of ways to play around with that one. I would encourage you to give it a try, and I'm sure your kids would love to kind of follow you down that journey. Another breathing technique is the mantra breathing. I really like this one for youth, and it seems to really connect with them. And there are different ways that you can do mantra breathing. So for some folks, they really enjoy kind of breathing in a certain feeling and breathing out a different feeling, maybe something they would like to be less connected to or to feel differently about in the moment, while others like to kind of focus on good feelings in both directions. So an example of this could be, as I breathe in peace, and I breathe out relaxation. And you can change that up with lots of different language, whatever feels right for you and your family, and whatever you think would be the best fit. Now Marjorie's going to take us through another breathing exercise.
Okay, so that was great. I really enjoyed that. Is it okay if I teach you another exercise that I really like everyone to know this, but like Emily said, there's not one best way to do it. There are tons of different ways to breathe slower or deeper. This is one that I like, so I'm going to show you now, okay? And all I'm going to do is ask you to breathe in and then hold it and then breathe out, but not quite that fast. Okay. So breathe in, 2, 3, hold it, 2, 3, breathe out, 2, 3. Is the pace okay?
Mm-hmm.
Breathe in, 2, 3, hold it, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. Once more. In, 2, 3. Hold, 2, 3. Out, 2, 3. Easy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel better, worse, or just the same?
I feel better.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, just after 2 breaths.
So if you were doing this with a little kid, it can be fun to just get them lie on the floor and maybe they want to pretend they're a lizard or a sloth or something if they're that kind of age. And just ask them to put a stuffy on their tummy. And as they breathe in, they'll see the little stuffy go up. As they breathe out, they'll see it go down so they can have a visual of what's happening and it's not all abstract.
Thank you. Another set of relaxation strategies or some other kind of quick tips that you can use, for example, is observation with your senses. So in this case, in this moment, I'll ask you to kind of pick a color, either green or blue, because those are nature colors that are organically soothing to us, and take a look around in your environment. And in your mind, name or label 5 things that you see that are either green or blue. So in doing that, you're helping kind of orientate yourself or bring your focus to the present moment, to the space that you're in. You're giving yourself, again, the colors to look for that are relaxing. And it kind of really can help, again, ground to the moment, which is really helpful when things feel like they're spiraling around us. And it helps us just kind of be where our body is in the present moment. Another great technique is progressive muscle release. And Marjorie's going to walk through it with us.
And you get to see us look funny while we demonstrate this. Okay, so progressive muscle relaxation is a great thing because we just spent lots of time talking about how stress makes us tense. And it's just there, right? We don't notice the fact that our shoulders are like this and that we're standing like this because it's just the way we are all the time. So we're going to do something to counteract that and help release some of that muscular stress. I'm going to do a fast version. You could do it more slowly by breaking it down into more parts than I am. Let's just do this a little bit quickly, okay? So for starters, I invite you obviously to do it with us. I want you to tense every muscle you have from your neck up. Well, no, from here up. Bring your shoulders up to your ears and tense up your face and squeeze your eyes and grit your teeth and hold it for maybe a count of 2 more seconds and then let it go. Now, next, let's move down to the arms. They're easy. Let your hands go into fists and pretend you're trying to pull something really heavy towards you. And let those back muscles get engaged and hold it for another couple of seconds and then let it go. Now, this is the hard one. Try and tense everything between your shoulders and the top of your legs. Your back muscles, your tummy muscles, any other muscles that you can find that are in that area. Tense them all up. They're not as obvious, but you'll notice the other muscles tensing too. And just hold that for a second more and let it go. It can make you fall over. And then finally, take everything from your hips down. Just let all the muscles from here, your hips, your upper legs, your lower legs, curl your toes. Let your arches come off the floor and hold all of that and hold it again and let it go. So you can do that more slowly by doing one arm and then the other arm, or just your head and then your shoulders and so on. But that's a quick way to do it, and it works really well. And I feel better.
Me too.
Okay.
So now we'll talk a bit about rhythm. So natural kind of rhythmic movement is very, very soothing to us. When you think about babies and they cry, what do we all naturally do, right? We pick them up, we hold them, and generally we rock them. Some of us are bouncing them, lots of different movements, but we get that baby moving. And that's really, really settling to the brain and nervous system, that movement. And it's easier to get kind of little kids engaged in that because they like to go to the park and they like to swing. But as older kids and youth and adults, we sometimes start to lose that movement, that rhythmic movement in our lives. And so I really encourage you to get out to the park, swing with your kids, swing with your youth. There are a lot of great swings you can buy that you can just stick into like ceiling posts, and folks can kind of enjoy them at home, or buy that rocking chair or porch swing chair and get yourself kind of moving again and swaying again. What you'll see here is just some ideas of things that folks already might think of right away, like sports or dance or playing in a rhythmic way. I have yoga as something I always kind of suggest as something to try. But for folks who have a hard time with the stillness, for a variety of reasons, doing something different like Qigong or Tai Chi can be really amazing because it incorporates movement with breath and you're not having to hold the position. So for those who already kind of struggle with freezing, it allows for that ongoing movement, which can be very a different experience for them and very soothing.
I know my kids always preferred dance to hip hop. Or dance to yoga, I mean.
Yes.
Hip hop was a big thing.
Yeah, they wanted to move. Yeah.
They wanted to move.
That's it. So that was a lot of information. We'll just take a minute to pause and let any ideas kind of percolate, or if there was anything you wanted to jot down to remember for later. All right, we're moving through, everybody. Now we're going to talk a little bit about those fundamental pillars to wellness and health that I spoke about before, one of them being sleep. Again, it's something that hopefully we all do every day. It's really important that we do that. And we're going to talk a little bit about why, what sleep does for us, and how to set ourselves up for sleep throughout our day. And then kind of at that bedtime mode when we're all trying to shut down, what that would look like in the best way for us. So what you'll see in front of you now is a graphic that gives you an idea about how much sleep you need based on age. So the research is a little bit out in terms of those concrete numbers, but this gives you a sense of what you're kind of aiming for and what would be helpful in general to you. Now, sleep does a lot for us, and I think we all kind of know that we need to sleep and that we've all woken up exhausted thinking, oh, that wasn't a great sleep, which is always not a good feeling. And so it's important to kind of remember that sleep has many, many functions. So it helps to kind of clear out things in our brain that we don't need to remember or hang on to. It helps to consolidate our memory so it can integrate what happened in the day in other contexts in our brains, so we can kind of hold on to the information or understand it in a different way. That's actually why all-nighters are not particularly useful for youth or for those who are kind of in school. They do need that sleep to help the information stick in their brain for exams. So sleep is really, really important in terms of that. And of course, it helps to repair our body. So now we know what is important about sleep and why we need sleep. Let's look at some of the things that we can do throughout the day to kind of set us up well, to have the best sleep possible that we can have. So things that are helpful to do are kind of exposing yourself to early morning light, and that really activates different parts of our body to start our day, and it helps kind of the rhythm of our day. We want to exercise during the day if we can, or move our bodies. Ideally, we have the same sleep-wake schedule throughout the week, and I know that's hard with weekends. We all like to kind of crash into them and sleep in, and a little bit is okay, but ideally, if you struggle with sleep and it's hard, the best thing to do is to keep a very similar schedule. Our body doesn't differentiate between a weekday and a weekend, so we have to kind of work with what we've got organically here. And then using relaxing bedtime rituals, and I think a lot of us already have done this and do this with our littles all the time. Things to kind of decrease if we're struggling with sleep are naps. Again, age dependent. So obviously for younger kids, they're going to still need that bump up of sleep. But if you're struggling as an adult or an older youth with sleep, then the best thing to do is decrease them to the amount that you can and avoid caffeine. It can take a long time to fully work out of your system. So particularly in the afternoon and evening, avoiding everything from chocolate, energy drinks, coffee, teas, those kind of things, to help kind of set us up in the best way for sleep at night. While there are a lot of things that we can do or decrease in order to help us have that really good sleep at the end of the day that we all want to have, there are some things that are best to really avoid or not do that's going to help us set us up for that nice sleep. One of those things is alcohol. So ideally, if you have trouble sleeping, you would abstain totally from drinking. If you are going to have a drink, ideally you give yourself 3 hours before when you finish that drink and go to sleep, because that's going to help you have the best night's sleep possible. Another thing to do is avoid evening light. So when I walk my dog late in the evening, as silly as it might sound, I wear sunglasses because that helps continue to cue my body with the hormones and chemicals it needs to be able to shut down in a little bit and have that good sleep that I want. Another thing that I think makes sense to most folks is avoiding scary or violent media or stressful things at night, like checking the email right before bed or engaging in really big problem-solving conversations. That's, especially around bedtime, is not a great time to engage in those things. Also, we have to talk about devices, and I know it can be tricky sometimes, especially youth at home who are kind of connecting and glued to it at that time of day. But ideally, we'd be off devices anywhere between 1 to 2 hours before trying to go to bed. So while we know what not to do, sometimes it's hard to know what to do instead then. So especially with youth, we have to think about what we can replace that with. So arts and crafts, listening to music or playing music, connecting as a family, playing board games or card games, like doing something together so that everybody can feel safe and connected and kind of slowly wind down the evening together are really good ways to replace that connection to technology right before bed. Now that we've talked a bit about what to do throughout the day, we're going to just look at bedtime itself, because there are things that we can do in the environment that help cue our brains about going to sleep and help keep us asleep in the deep sleep that we all crave. So one thing is to have the room or space be dark, have it be cool. Some of the research suggests 18.3 degrees Celsius, which is much cooler than I think most of us are aware of or think about. So it's not about necessarily hitting that number. It is more about being able to at least bring the temperature down a little bit to help signal our body and keep us in that nice deep sleep. We ideally would want a dedicated space. So by that, I mean your bed is just for sleeping. That's what's happening. So we're not like texting friends or doing homework or other things. We really want our brain to associate. So we want it to think about, oh, bed means sleep. I'm in bed, I'm going to sleep. So that might mean creating a comfy, cozy corner in the room for your kiddo or your youth so that they have somewhere to go that feels really safe and snuggly and comfortable. That's not their bed. Also, we'd have it pretty quiet to go to sleep. Some folks really like white noise machines, and that's okay. Something kind of soft in the background, but ideally we're having it as quiet as we can be. And then finally, I love talking about no snooze. So I don't know how many people out there like hit the snooze multiple times in the morning. But when we do that, we're actually kind of giving ourselves a big boost of chemicals right away. Sometimes some of the research looks at even adrenaline in the morning from that. And so we're waking up kind of in this abrupt way, and then we're staying in bed and we're doing it again to ourselves like 10 minutes later or whatever. And then we're losing that chunk of sleep when we're snoozing instead of sleeping. So ideally, set your alarm for when you need to get up. It'll take some practice if you're not used to it, and that's okay. Be gentle with yourself, and sleep through and get up when the snooze goes off. Maybe even start with reducing it to just 1 snooze instead of 4. That would be helpful. So that's all about, or we've talked rather about setting ourselves up for success for sleep. And we know inevitably sleep will go awry. It does for all of us throughout our lifespan, like little to adults. We all experience difficulties at different times with sleeping, and nightmares in particular. They're very normal to have. We all experience them. So what do we do when somebody that we're caring for or love and support has a nightmare? So the first piece is about connection. So remember, when their body has dropped into that fight or flight, as Marjorie was talking about earlier, they need somebody to help them feel and remember that they're safe, they're secure, they're connected. And that gives that sense of, okay, I'm here now, I'm going to be okay. So your presence is really important, physically being with them, giving them some reassurance, a hug, or rubbing their back, doing other things that let them know you're here. And together, we are safe, right? We're sending a us together message. We also want to reset the environment, because often when nightmares happen, stuffies or things have gone flying, the lights are back on, can be a lot of chaos right around that time. So helping reset and soothing everything again, turning off the lights, resetting the bed, getting all the favorite things again, taking the time to set the environment up to be familiar and comfortable and safe. And then you can also use any of the strategies that we've taught. So you can do the tension release with the person that you're with. You can do some breathing. All those things will help kind of, again, settle the nervous system. There's a really great video I'm going to invite you to watch. It gives tons of other really easy to use tips and tricks about how to kind of calm yourself and feel better about worrying. And it's really cute, it's short. So if you'd like to pause us and pop on over, we'll be here when you get back.
So now let's just get ready to wrap up talking about food. Your mother or your grandmother probably said something like, "You are what you eat." And we're understanding a lot more about how that actually is true. But what does that mean for us? So if you want to feel good physically and mentally, if you want your loved ones to feel good physically and mentally, if you only use 3 words of advice, it would be eat real food. And stuff that comes wrapped in plastic plus tin foil plus cardboard with 17 preservatives and things that you don't know that's not real food, just say it. So within that, it's really great if you can eat a wide variety, especially of fruits and vegetables. And with young ones, that means, sometimes introducing and reintroducing and reintroducing, and sometimes they're just not going to like something. But you can encourage them to try new things and make that not be weird to have something new on the plate. But also the whole social part around food. If you can cook together, if you're the cook, if whoever the cook is in the family, can just really enjoy preparing food and making meals and then eating together. There's a lot of research that shows that kids whose families eat dinner together most of the time, it's not possible all of the time, of course, do better, are more successful in life, and are just doing better on a lot of different ways. And once in a while, just practice taking the time to eat mindfully, even for a bite or two. Really smell the food, and really taste it and feel the texture. And pay attention to, is this something that I really like? Is this delicious? Or is this just fuel that doesn't actually taste so good that I'm just kind of shoveling in? Because we eat both kinds of things. There are things that you can really do for yourself, for anybody else that you're cooking for, to help to improve their physical and mental health. And they look pretty simple, and in today's world, they're not necessarily simple to institute at all. But if you can decrease foods with a lot of sugar in them, ideally no added sugar or added sugar only for special occasions, then that's really, really helpful to the body and the brain. And the same for processed foods, which tend to have a lot of sugar, but also have, all the ingredients altered hugely from the things that you find in your own kitchen. And reducing those things actually helps the body reduce inflammation, helps the brain reduce inflammation, and makes you feel better. Sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly. And of course, the two above things mean that it's really good not to eat fast food too much. It's not likely that everybody's going to cut McDonald's out of their life, but just trying not to overdo it on the fast food, reduce it some, every bit helps. And I suppose the last bit of advice is don't try and go in and gangbusters change your family's way of eating and say, hey, we're only going to have highly nutritious stuff, no desserts ever, and no fast food ever, because that won't work. Go gradual. There's some resources that you can use. The Mediterranean Food Guide, rather than the Canada Food Guide, is at the top because the Mediterranean way of eating, usually called the Mediterranean diet, is the one that's got the most research associating it with physical health, brain health, improved mental health. Fun fact, if you just increase the fruits and vegetables in your diet or your loved ones' diets, that in itself has been shown to decrease depression and anxiety by up to 20% without doing anything else, which is kind of cool to know. Mm-hmm. I have the Brazilian food guide on there because I think it's really cool. It says very little about what to eat. It kind of says eat real food. And it really emphasizes those things like cooking together, enjoying cooking and making it a social event and sitting together as a family and enjoying the meals and having it be, a positive social time and how very good that is for us.
And last but certainly not least, we wanted to talk to you about you, the people watching this video, and how much you matter, both as a human being and how much you matter in your loved ones' lives and all the ways that you support them and guide them and show up for them. And so this is a very gentle reminder to you about the importance of taking care of yourself, especially when you're in a caregiving role to others all the time. So these are some general ideas as a way to kind of give permission to you to set those limits, right? Saying no or delegating what you can, taking time for yourself, and that can look in a variety of ways. It can be a mindful moment or mindful minute or a daily gratitude practice or, getting away for an afternoon. So it can go from the smallest of breaks to bigger things. I think the key is being mindful and being present when you are taking those breaks, giving yourself that self-love and self-compassion when you do. And that will translate to supporting your nervous system and helping keep you well and being well while you're taking care of others. And another lovely thing to remember is to model and practice with the kids and youth that you support. Because first of all, it normalizes it. It helps them feel okay trying new things, trying new grounding strategies, new regulation strategies, and also your nervous system benefits. You will feel better by doing it too. So always kind of the things that you're learning and teaching, using them for yourself, and remembering to stay connected to others. We also can become isolated as caregivers or people in this really busy world, and remembering that we need connection too, outside of what we're giving to other people, outside of that caregiving. So that too, but also just for us, and also being able to ask for help or connect with helpers in our world when we need it too. There are some resources that you're looking at right now, so these contributed to the presentation. There are also resources like CHEO in Ottawa is a fabulous place for parents and caregivers to connect with if they'd like any more support or want to reach out. There are some books that you can draw on if you're interested in reading more about some of the things we talked about. And a wonderful book if you're thinking, I do want to talk about the brain and the nervous system to my little person, but where do I start? How do I start? Marjorie spoke about it in a way that you could use that language if it works for you. And if you're a visual person or you've got a child or youth who's a visual person, the book Being Human, a polyvagal informed story about the states of the nervous system by Jackie Flynn is a wonderful place to start and really kind of connects well with those younger kids. And you'll find these resources in the description below. Finally, we want to say thank you. Thank you for being here and learning with us today. Thank you for everything you do, for the people in your world who rely on you and need you to be there. And thank you for trusting us to share some of this information with you and for being vulnerable and participating when you could. Take care.
Bye-bye.